If I can have your attention, please, for our chairman, Mr. Alan Ticehurst.
Thank you, Bob. I'd like to take the opportunity of introducing Diane James, our guest this evening. Diane was only 1,700 votes short of becoming an MP, which is remarkable, I think, for the UK Independence Party. Diane is on the list for the European election as a European candidate, and is no doubt standing in 2015. And I hope Diane will be probably the first MP that UK Independence Party will select. Please have a good welcome to Diane.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first test is that reaching everybody. Anyone not able to hear me? That's the first thing I want to check. Okay. Right, I've never had a lecture this tall before. This is a first for me, but thank you very much indeed. The one thing that struck me in the time that I've been with you already this evening is how enthusiastic you all are. I mean, I've spoken now, I think this must be something like my 20th speech that I've given at events like this. And you take pole position for the number of people being here, and you also take pole position for just being such enthusiastic and energetic UKIP supporters. So very, very well done indeed. Before I go on though, let me thank Bob Lacey, because I think it was only weeks after Easter, he contacted me and said, Diane, can I ask you to put this date in the diary for the Eastbourne people? And I said, yes, with pleasure. Not thinking that I would be doing the Cambridge Union debate the following evening, joining Nigel on Monday evening in London, which was quite a nightmare, as you can imagine, with all the traffic problems. But can I just say, I am delighted to be here, and I'll try and do you justice with a speech. I do understand, and I'm not going to look at the individual concern, that we do have one, maybe more than one, non-UKIPper here. All I can say is the next time we meet, which I hope won't be too far away, I hope you join the party by then. I won't have any non-UKIPers again. Let's move on though. In terms of that enthusiasm and that energy that I talked about just in that opening statement, that is exactly what UKIP as a party is capturing, and is what is propelling us to be the fourth political force here in the UK. Good. Now, what your achievements demonstrate, and I've gone around as many tables as I could between courses. I know I've still got a few more to do, and I'll try and get to talk to you. But what I see and what I hear is everything about why the media is now taking us so seriously, why the likes of myself and others, we get the opportunity to be on Question Time and any questions and do our press interviews and such. But it's that energy and it's that enthusiasm and it's that go out and get those votes, which is so important, and it's what is there, and it's really making the party what it is and stands for. Now, whoops, I knew that was going to happen. What people have said to me at other meetings is, Diane, we really ought to nominate in future years the 28th, 29th of February, if we've got a leap year, as being Easter Day. And I said that is a really, really nice gesture, and I'm very grateful for it. But what I actually think we ought to do is say that 2013 was Eastleigh stroke UKIP year, and looking to the future, it becomes a year that we celebrate because it brought the party to a point where we nearly had that first MP, and I'm sorry I let you down on that, couldn't quite get those 1,700 votes. But the important issue was that we came of age as a party. Not only this year did we celebrate 20 years, and we'll talk about the conference, I'm sure, but what we did do was showed that we were an absolutely potent political force out there, and one that the other three political parties, and note I call them the other three, not the other three major, just the other three, have really had to wake up to in terms of the threat that we now pose. It wasn't just Eastleigh, though, that made this year so fundamentally important in UKIP's history. It was also the 2nd of May. And I can still remember I'd been asked by the party that if I was needed on the day after the county council elections, could I be available to go into London? And I got that first call, I think it was 7 AM in the morning, from the BBC. And they said, Diane, if we send a car to you in deepest Surrey, will you come into London and will you commentate? And I said, yeah, absolutely delighted. You know, who's going to turn down that sort of opportunity? And as I was driving in, I had my iPad squeaking at me, telling me that we were getting yet another county councillor elected. And my iPhone was just going absolutely ballistic with messages. To the point that when I arrived at Millbank, and I'd spoken to Nigel and Steve Crowther and people like that the night before, and our target had been an absolute maximum of 40. And when I walked into Millbank that morning, we already had 52. Now, I'll tell you what, though, what was my greatest pleasure and what I let out a huge scream over was when my sister, who helped me at Eastleigh and only joined UKIP after the Eastleigh campaign, rang me to say that she had taken a seat in West Sussex, held by the Conservatives for 18 years, but really went out there, stomped the stomp, went on the doors, got the leaflets out there and took that seat. I gave her a little bit of help, the major bit was on the day of telling, but it just showed for me that it can be done, that what we achieved in Eastleigh in terms of that energy, that enthusiasm, that campaign strategy, that teamwork, it can work at absolutely every single level. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, 2013 hasn't all been roses. We've had all the problems with Facebook accounts being hacked, with Twitter accounts being reviewed and information lifted from that. But what that tells me, and what I want to go on to talk about, is now why the media is really taking us so seriously, and how and why we must keep the media on our side. And it's all very well, you know, having the lovely invitations to go and do question time, any questions, daily politics, all of that. I mean, it massages your ego, ladies, to a point you probably can't imagine. That's not why I do it. I do it because I want to stand up and represent the party. But can I make that point, that the media at the moment is our friend, despite what you might think with the Godfrey Bloom episode at conference and Michael Crick. But at the moment they are our friends and they are being very, very nice to us. But we are walking a knife edge, because the minute they stop being our friends, the minute they turn against us, a lot of our support and a lot of the means to which we're using to appeal to voters out there, we will lose that. Now, if I go back for a minute to what happened to me in Eastleigh and just give you some idea of what the MEPs are going to be up against in the next few months, and also our prospective parliamentary candidates, every single morning in Eastleigh at about 6:30, which was when I was up and about, I was getting on average 40 texts or emails to tell me who I was going to be walking into outside the campaign headquarters. And there are people here in this audience I know that came down and helped me during that campaign. I haven't thanked you yet personally. I want to thank you now. But possibly you came across that when you joined us at that campaign headquarters, and you saw the phalanx of journalists, you saw the phalanx of interviewers, and it was pretty daunting, ladies and gentlemen, pretty daunting. I've got a couple of anecdotes, that, one of which I use quite a bit, so if people have heard about this one, I do apologise. Clive Page is one of our senior press officers in UKIP, and he stood by my side all the way through the Easter campaign. He was there night and day, in the nicest way, ladies and gentlemen. But I remember him saying to me one morning, Diane, we've got the Daily Mail, they've come to see you. Now the Daily Mail, for those of you who don't know, is one of the most important political newspapers out there. It appeals expressly to the female vote. It's why David Cameron courts it with a huge amount of energy, because it's absolutely pivotal to getting the ladies out. And if the ladies get out and vote, you can guarantee that other family members will vote. And anyway, Clive said, the Daily Mail's here. And I said, fine, Clive, I hope you put them on message. And he said, yes, Diane, I've told them you will not discuss your private life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got absolutely nothing to hide. There's no skeleton in the cupboard. There's nothing that the party doesn't know about, and there's nothing that's not on the blogs already. But anyway, we started off the interview, and within a few minutes, the journalist said, Diane, what does your husband do? I said, very kind of you to ask, but I'm the candidate, he isn't. Now, can we go on? A few minutes later, it's quite a lengthy interview, Diane, your husband must be in government circles. No, very kind of you to ask, I'm the candidate, he's not. His last attempt a few minutes later was, Diane, your husband must be a paedophile, and that's why you don't want to talk about it. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just using that to demonstrate what dealing with the press can be like. 1 minute they're nice as pie, next they want the information out of you, and they will try any way they can possibly think of to get that information. Now that wasn't one of the easiest ones, but it is one of the episodes that sticks in my mind. The other one that probably you might remember was when I supposedly apologised for the slur that I created by accusing the Romanians of being responsible for all the crime in London. Now that was the Times journalist. I made no such comment, and when he came to see me after he printed this, I refused to talk to him. And he got very, very upset about, oh come on, you know, the UKIP candidate, she can't refuse to speak to me. And I said, you print an apology to me for what you've misrepresented, and I will then talk to you. I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, I never ever got that apology, but nor will I speak to that particular journalist. I will talk to the Times, but not that particular one. What I want you to go on to talk about, just bear with me a moment, is this issue of how to handle the media and the sort of issues that individuals are up against out there. Now, I know you've had as a guest speaker Janice Atkinson, and she's probably one of our most, what's the word I'm looking for, experienced journalists, in that she knows how to handle them, she knows their tactics and this sort of thing. She's the sort of individual that all I can say you really do need to bring on board and make more use of here at a constituency level, because all of you are going to be up against the same sort of issues that I and the team had and experienced during Easter. It won't be at the same level, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to frighten you, but the level of interest from the media at the moment in terms of UKIP, for what it stands for the calibre, particularly the calibre of representatives that we've got going forward into Europe and also into London, is so high, it's such a fright, such a shock to the other three political parties, that the press is being used to get at us. Now, Godfrey Bloom, let me return to that. I was in the room that day, at that meeting, when I saw and heard what he did. You've all seen how I reacted to that. I didn't do and say what I said in a vindictive way. What I was trying to do was get across that could you, ladies and gentlemen, imagine any Conservative or coalition government minister or MP using the word sluts? And that's what I want to leave you with, ladies and gentlemen, that particular message in terms of that story. We as a party have got to grow up. We are getting so much more professional, I'm delighted to say. And what I have been able to highlight to every single interviewer over the last few weeks is the calibre of MEP candidates and MP candidates that we've got going forward. I don't think any other party can actually state, as I can with conviction here, that I know of barristers, of doctors, of lawyers, very, very clever, very, very intelligent people that want to go forward and represent UKIP. And you know what that does, ladies and gentlemen? It buries the concept of fruitcakes, nutters, and all of those horrible other phrases that were used 6 foot under in the earth. We are now really, really punching on a level ground and an equal ground with the others out there. That's not to say, ladies and gentlemen, that Michael Crick still doesn't have his own personal vendetta. I don't doubt that the next time I bump into him, he will try and get me to thump him with something or to react in some way. All I will do is send the messages via yourselves this evening, is he can try, but he would be better off focusing his attention on the other 3 political parties. And have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that since Neasley we have not had another by-election, but we have 4 sitting MPs who have resigned the whip from their 3 political parties. They dare not cause another by-election, and the reason being is that all of the parties know that the next one that happens, UKIP will take it. Now, of course, that will be a bit of a disappointment for me, because I'm unlikely to be the first MP that UKIP has, and that would be a lovely accolade to have. But the important message there, ladies and gentlemen, is that from an energy point of view and an attention point of view, what we need to do is focus on 2014 and then 2015, and I'm very grateful that we won't have the distraction and the pull on party funds for another by-election. Now, I will eat my words, ladies and gentlemen, if one does occur, but if we get another scenario, as we did with Dunfermline, where the MSP has actually gone to prison, and let's just think, if that were to happen to Eric Joyce, if that were to happen to Patrick Mercer, if that were to happen to Mr. Hancock in Portsmouth South, all of those, particularly Portsmouth, are a prime UKIP target, and we will take it, I guarantee we will. The media interest, ladies and gentlemen, though, doesn't just extend to the UK. When I went back home after the 3-week campaign in Eastleigh, the very first thing that came through my letterbox, alongside a lot of very nice cards and such, was a copy of the Singapore Times. And that was because a resident in Ewhurst had been on holiday at the time, a supporter of mine, I'm the borough councillor for Ewhurst, but they had picked up this on the plane coming back to the UK, and the reason they did so was the front cover was UKIP, Eastleigh, myself as a photo, and Nigel as the photo, and that just shows you the level of reach and attention that we are creating. There's also a downside. I happen to spend some time in France. My husband has a property there, bought that before we were married. We're both Francophiles, but every time I'm in France now, I'm getting the discussion, the debate of whether we will be partnering with the National Front there, whether we will be close friends with Marine Le Pen, and all of these sort of issues. And I was delighted to see Paul Nuttall only a few days ago very forcefully on TV state categorically no partnership with any party on the extreme right, so no BNP, no EDL, or any European equivalent. And ladies and gentlemen, if you can take that message back onto the doorstep, I think that's another very important one to give to voters. What, though, ladies and gentlemen, is Eastleigh's legacy? Where does it leave that town, nice sleepy little town down in South Hampshire, and also UKIP? Now, I'm going to just read a little bit if you don't mind. Well, first of all, it put the town on the political map probably forever. I mean, even now, all the political pundits talk about Eastleigh. For us, and for all of the other major political parties, it's parachuted that constituency into a top 5 marginal, not a top 20, a top 5. So whether I'm the prospective parliamentary candidate or anybody else from UKIP who stands there in 2015, we can expect even more of an onslaught from the Liberal Democrats, absolutely desperate to keep that seat. Now that's absolutely fantastic news, because if they pour more resource into Eastleigh, that's less resource here in Eastbourne, for instance, which means you stand an even better chance of getting your Member of Parliament elected. The media, of course, they still love the Eastleigh story. They love the shock that it created. They love all of the aspects that, if you like, the thumbs or the fingers in the air that it gave to the likes of David Cameron and such. But what they keep on doing, and this is where it really helps UKIP and why I'm so proud of what we did. Eastleigh is UKIP by association. It's always the two words together. It showed the breakthrough that UKIP could make in terms of voter appeal. It did portray the UKIP candidate as less of a fruitcake. And interestingly, who hears of Mike Thornton now? He never makes the news, he's never reported, never even in Hansard, for instance. But what it did prove, ladies and gentlemen, was that UKIP was a force to be reckoned with, and one that's not going to go away. Now, I make those points with absolute conviction and with a huge amount of pride. And I reiterate again that that conviction comes from the ongoing media interest. The fact that we've gone, as a party, from maybe 3 to 4 appearances on mainstream TV in 2012 to now 1 or 2 appearances literally every 4 to 6 weeks. Now just think about that in terms of what it's doing to get the message out and to show the people that we've got available. And it's brilliant to see the likes of Amjad Bashir. Did you see him on Daily Politics? Really standing up for the ethnic vote. And I'm not being racist or bigoted. He was making the point that that's the last thing UKIP is. And to hear a very, very erudite, a very intelligent gentleman making those points was really very, very important indeed. Then, of course, we've got the likes of Patrick O'Flynn doing a fantastic job for us in the Daily Express. And if you follow that paper online, he really does get this message across in such a way, reader-friendly and such, of the dangers and the negatives and the disbenefits of continued e-membership. Now that's a mainstream paper, another one widely read by the female voter, so again a lovely, lovely tick box for us. Question time. Lots of people, before we sat down for dinner this evening, asked me, would I just comment a little bit about question time? So I will, and I will make it brief, I promise. Question time takes, on average, 2 days beforehand to prepare. And that is, when I say preparation, that is sitting, for me, with the likes of Clive Page, and we will have spent 5 days beforehand thinking we've identified the topics that will come up. Now, on the last question time, we were in an absolute, quite frankly, hole, because there were 11 stories running with equal energy scale. But if you analyse what happens on question time, only 4 topics are selected. And each topic roughly 8 to 10 minutes because of the number of panellists. We, out of those 11 topics, had to make an absolutely educated guess as to what was going to come up. And ladies and gentlemen, can I tell you, only one of the topics that we selected actually came up on that evening. And it's testimony to the support that Clive has given me and the nurturing he's given me to handle that. Because I can tell you quite honestly, if that had happened a few months before Eastleigh, I would have probably sat there and clammed up, as most people would. You need to be able to react very, very quickly on question time and any questions. And that's why when I get the nice comments back, I think, thank you, I really appreciate that. And keep them coming and keep sending them to the other panellists. But when you get the negative ones, that's when you want to turn around and say, have you any idea what it's like to be there for 50 minutes or more, actually no idea what's going to come at you, no idea how the other panellists are going to react to you, but much, much more importantly, knowing that David Dimbleby doesn't like UKIP, full stop. And I'm sure that's come across to you in a very, very big way. After the first question time episode, he took me to one side before we sat down to supper, and he said, how did you feel about that, Diane? I said, well, you know, I've done worse things. I've probably stuck pins in my eyes or something like that. And he said, well, Diane, you do realise this isn't serious politics. And I looked a bit askance. He said, no, Diane, this is entertainment. And I've actually sat on the periphery whilst he's done his audience briefing. And he really, it's a bit like sending the Roman gladiators into the Roman amphitheatre. They go in, the audience is prepared in such a way to attack the panellists. It's not an easy thing to manage, it's not an easy thing to handle. It does get easier, third time round, I am getting a bit better at it, and I will be doing my level best to help others. Last week's Any Questions and also the previous week's Question Time, both Clive and I gave the BBC a whole list of UKIP candidates that we think could now appear on TV. And if we can get Louise Bors on there, if we can see more of Paul Nuttall, if we can see more of Amjad, if we can see more of a whole series of really, really good candidates, that's what we need out there. But I go back to my point, we have got to keep the media on our side and not let it go south. Ladies and gentlemen, there's 7 months to the European elections. 7 months, and that 7 months is going to be absolutely critical. It's going to be critical for 2 reasons. All of the forecasters, all of the pundits are saying UKIP is going to do well. If we don't do well, we will actually undermine ourselves, and that will be a very, very bad thing to happen. But more importantly, if we don't do well, we will lose that momentum and we will lose the media interest that is so vital to getting us there in 2015. Now here in the South East, we have got 4 very, very good candidates who have stand every chance of being elected. Now 4, that's double what we had in 2009. If we get 4, ladies and gentlemen, the 4th candidate on the Conservative list will not get in. Anyone know who she is? Give away.
Marta Andreasen.
Well done, Marta Andreasen, who did what she did during the Eastleigh campaign, thinking she would scupper UKIP. Well, ladies and gentlemen, revenge is a dish best eaten cold, is what they say. I had my ice cream this evening, and I'm going to be eating lots of ice cream as soon as the MEP results are announced, because I firmly believe that myself and Ray Finch in 4th will be elected to the European Parliament. More importantly, once we're there, we can then start to help the constituencies with our contributions to really help you get us a good selection of MPs into the House of Commons a year later. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've spoken for my full 20 minutes, possibly a bit more. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing so. I've had a great evening, I really have. And as I said when I started this evening, the energy and the enthusiasm amongst you is absolutely infectious. It really is. And all I can say is maintain it, develop it, and would you mind sending a whole lot of it in bottles around the UK so that other UKIP constituencies can have a bit. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Diane has very kindly agreed to take questions. We can only have a couple, so I'll start with the gentleman over there.
phone call today to say that on one of the topics that you were talking about, that the Sussex police are actually telling their special constables and their officers not to vote UKIP because we're racist. And I think that's something in the press that we need to very quickly stop. You know, if that is right, I'm going to be asking the Chief Constable that question very soon. Because you know, I think that is appalling. A gentleman phoned me who is from UKIP.
That is the question, Phil. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm absolutely shocked that is happening. I think the officers concerned ought to be absolutely ashamed of themselves. And more importantly, it's quite obvious that there ought to be an official complaint. So forget the sort of issues that we've had at a national level, with Alan Mitchell and Pledgate and such. This is a categoric example at a local level where the police are bringing themselves into disrepute. Now, you know, whether UKIP wants to do anything with that press-wise, that's up to West Sussex County Council, but there are, I think it's 10 UKIP county councillors. I'm sure Bernard and the other senior personnel there would want to pick up that story and deal with it. And it's one of those that really does need to be nipped in the bud very, very quickly indeed. But quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Next question. Lucy, did you put your hand up? Okay. Right. Gentleman over there. A brief question, please.
Very brief. You say there's only 4 candidates that we get into the European elections. Our candidate is Donna Edmonds. She's number 5. Now, if Nigel gets elected to Parliament before May 2015, then Donna will get in, won't she?
Absolutely spot on. More importantly, if we get 4 MEPs in, for instance, and then all 4 get elected, then Donna will either have the chance to represent us in Brussels, or if she's also been successful herself as becoming an MP, she'll have the same choice that we've all got. Let me go back though to the application form that we all had to complete, and it was very, very categoric. We, in terms of putting ourselves forward as MEP candidates, we also had to guarantee that we would also put ourselves forward as MP candidates. So this is not an either-or. We all know that we are, if you like, focused on a 2-horse race here. It just so happens that the MEP elections are the first. I do apologise, I only communicate with Donna literally by email and text and such. I've never met the lady. I've seen her, you know, I've seen her information as such and what she's got to put out on the members' forum. But regretfully, I haven't met her, but I wish her very, very well. I would be absolutely delighted if we get 5. I really would. I was just trying to be more pragmatic in terms of what I think will happen in the South East.
But the point is, if Nigel gets elected to Parliament before then...
Well, I go back to my point. I don't think there will be a by-election between now and 2015. And I'm prepared to wager on that if you would like.
Right, well, thank you very much, Diane, for answering those questions and answering them so fully. We're very grateful to you for coming along this evening and making it not just an entertaining but an informative evening as well. And I think we would all like to give her a super vote of thanks by way of clapping. Would you like to clap? Every generation throws up someone who goes against the grain. It was Churchill in the 50s, it was Powell in the 60s, in the 70s and 80s it was Margaret Thatcher, and so it goes on. And Nigel Farage has been at the forefront of the UK Independence Party since 1992. And he's done a wonderful job, and we're very fortunate in having him as leader of our party, because he's gone through the dismal days, he's gone through the happier times, and now he's getting into the ecstatic times. And it's our job to make his job as easy as possible by electing as many MEPs as we can when we come to the Euro elections in 2014. And in 2015, we here in Eastbourne will fight every single council seat, and we aim to get a large number of them in the process. And we hope that similarly in neighbouring constituencies the same will occur there where there are elections at that time. If I may crave your indulgence, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank the hotel and their staff in particular for having served us this evening in what I could only describe as an excellent meal and which everyone seemed to enjoy. So thank you to the staff of the hotel. Can I also thank, because she hasn't been thanked so far, Jo Macaulay, my partner in crime, who has also been taking your wishes of what you want to eat and how you want to pay and when you want to pay, because that's made my job a lot easier. So thank you very much, Jo, for doing that. I'd also like to thank Alan Ticehurst for his unbounded enthusiasm as our chairman. Without him, we wouldn't be where we are today. We have gone from, in May, 62 members to more than 130 today, and we're bang on target for 150, which will probably make us the largest party with membership in Eastbourne if we're fortunate. And I think that's the way we're going, because next year we want to increase even further on that. And with my colleagues Alan Thornton and Diane Kefalinos, who are also branch organisers like myself, we aim to be able to get towards that target, because that's the way we can win elections, by having the bodies, by having the willing people, and you've shown here this evening by your enthusiasm that that's what we can do. We're out to win it. We say, if you vote UKIP, you'll get UKIP. If you get UKIP, you'll actually get common sense policies. And if that's what you want, that's what you can have. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for coming. We're going to hold the raffle now. You will not come and pick a prize, you will get a prize. And each time you get a prize, that's yours. None of this, oh, I'll put it back and let someone else have a go, or anything else like that. If you win 2 prizes, you win 2 prizes. If you win 3, you win 3. If you win 4, we're not going to let you come to the next meeting. So we're going to start the raffle now, so if I can have a couple of helpers up to come and assist me with those prizes, I'd be most grateful.
Thank you.